And I remember being in the car, we were taking a trip to Driggs, Idaho, and I just started writing a list of all of these activities. And I was like, what if I just made a curriculum that walked people through basically my favorite OT activities with the emphasis on crawling, because we can improve so many areas of the brain through crawling. So that's what I did. And I just have found that using it as a modality myself for brain breaks, for labor, for, improving my ability to focus, posture. I just felt like it was something that everyone needed to do. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica, and this is All Things Sensory by Harkla.
We are both certified occupational therapy assistants, and together with Harkla, we are on a mission to empower parents, therapists, and educators to help raise confident and strong children of all abilities.
On this podcast, we chat about all things sensory, diving into special needs, occupational therapy, parenting, self-care, overall health and wellness, and so much more.
We are here to provide raw, honest, and fun strategies, ideas, and information for parents, therapists, and educators, as well as other professionals to implement into daily life.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey there, welcome back to All Things Sensory by Harkla. We're so happy to have you here today. I'm Rachel.
I'm Jessica. Today I'm going to interview Rachel all about her book. If you didn't know, she wrote a book called Crawling for Brain Development. I don't have a bio to read for her because I just kind of did this randomly. But Rachel Harrington, let's see if I can just riff, just do it off the cuff.
See how well you know me.
Okay. Rachel Harrington is a certified occupational therapy assistant, as well as a certified primitive reflex clinical specialist. She has been working in the occupational therapy field for 10 years. She is the mother of 2 toddlers. She has a sensory sensitive golden retriever, and she likes to hike in the foothills of Boise, Idaho, while in between running a business called Sensational Brain, which is a continuing education platform for therapists, and working with Harkla. She's the co-host of the All Things Sensory podcast. Welcome, Rachel.
Wow, that was really good.
I had so many other things that I wanted to say, but then I was like, it's not appropriate.
Well, tell me one of them.
No, because it's not appropriate.
It's okay. We'll cut it out.
No, it's fine.
Well,
Rachel,
now I have to know.
I'll tell you later. I'll tell you off air. All right, Rachel, we're here to talk to you today about your book, Crawling for Brain Development. And there it is. Look how pretty it is.
Woo!
Does Trip know that he's on the cover of the book? Your son, Trip.
Yeah, I don't think he really cares. But his friend, who's also on the cover, she's very excited about it.
She likes it.
And she'll, whenever we hang out, she's always like, are we going to do activities today?
Oh, she loves it.
Are we going to do activities, Miss Rachel? Oh, she's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'm just curious. Okay. So can you tell our audience what got you started down this path of looking into crawling and how important crawling is for development and the connection to higher level skills?
Yeah, so I think it really goes back to when I was pregnant with Austin. My midwife gave me a packet of information, and I started reading the information. I obviously didn't read all of it because it was a lot, but I was, thumbing through it and reading some of it and talking about labor and delivery and preparing the body for labor and delivery. And I remember this one specific sentence that was, and I talk about this in the book, so if you've read this, I'm sorry I'm repeating it, but it says, crawling is as innate as blinking. And I loved that so much. I just sat there with it and I was like, oh my gosh, that is powerful. And that's so true. So then I started to think about, because this was when I was pregnant with Austin, my own journey with labor and delivery and what I could do to make the process as smooth as possible. And I love birth. I'm obsessed with it now, having done it twice. And so I just started crawling and crawling and crawling.
While you were pregnant.
While I was pregnant, and ended up having a great birth, and she just fell right out, and it was That's a story for another day. But it was great. And so a year after having her was when I really started to sit down and kind of brainstorm these activities. And I remember being in the car, we were taking a trip to Driggs, Idaho, and I just started writing a list of all of these activities. And I was like, what if I just made a curriculum that walked people through basically my favorite OT activities with the emphasis on crawling, because we can improve so many areas of the brain through crawling. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. And I just have found that using it as a modality myself for, brain breaks, for labor, for, improving my ability to focus, posture. I just felt like it was something that everyone needed to do.
Did you include a lot of research in the book?
There's 4 pages of research articles. There's
excellent,
like excerpts and quotes and all the things, because I just kept finding these research articles and I was like, oh wait, oh my gosh. Because in my head, I know, but of course we have to have the research to back it. And it just was so exciting to see these research articles being done on neuromotor immaturity, crawling, brain development, primitive reflexes, sensory development, and the connection to, specifically in a lot of the articles, skipped crawling. So when children skip the milestone of crawling, and reflex retention and things like that.
So tell us more about that.
Don't mind if I do. I don't want to bore everyone, but basically the research is showing a connection to skipping these milestones of tummy time and crawling and learning disabilities, dyslexia, dysgraphia, retained primitive reflexes. And so when these kids don't go through these specific developmental patterns, it's like their brain is skipping over this fundamental block of the pyramid, right? If we think about our pyramid of learning. And so going back and giving their brain a second chance, going through these patterns. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions of the book itself and the program is that it's designed for babies, and it's not at all designed for babies. Mm-hmm. It's for kids, adults. My mom's done the program. Daniel's grandparents are doing the program. And there's just the feedback that I'm hearing about everyone doing it is awesome.
Yeah. And so you crawl every day.
Yeah, I try to.
Do your children crawl every day?
Yes. Austin definitely does more of it. She's in that phase where it's like, oh, it's so fun. Let's do it. We crawl to the bed to go to bed at night, or for naps, or we crawl outside in the grass or the turf. And my son will do like dinosaur crawling or bear crawling. Yeah. And his fists are like this. I'm like, no, put your fists flat, please.
Okay, so we talk about that a lot in YouTube and podcast videos ourselves of, why we want our kids to crawl with their hands flat on the ground. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I actually put a whole list and pictures of these crawling patterns, these compensatory crawling patterns, because I wanted people to see what their own bodies are probably looking like when they're crawling. And I wanted them to have pictures that say, oh, this is what you're doing. This is why it's maybe not the most ideal. So there's like pictures of all these different ways that they could be crawling and things that you should be aware of, because it can potentially mean there are weaknesses, they are compensating for asymmetries, their eyes aren't working together, their upper body, their lower bodies aren't disassociating, their hands are weak. Really, it can mean a variety of things. And I think just knowing that when we're seeing this, I see it a lot at the gym too, when people are working out and their hands are like, we're doing weight bearing activities and their hands are, like in this position.
Hopefully you're watching this on video, not just listening.
And you can see my hand like this, maybe like this, right? So that instead of weight bearing. And I try not to be that annoying person at the gym. Like, oh, well, you should really do your hands flat. That's how you're supposed to do it.
I could never see you saying that to somebody.
So one girl that I was working out next to, we were doing like mountain climbers, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But with sliding discs.
Oh, so hard.
And, you know, she was kind of like voicing to me that it was hard. You know, it was really hard. And I was like, it's a lot easier if you put your hands flat and point them forward. Maybe that'll help. You know, it's like a kind way to be like,
wait, did she do it?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
It honestly, it doesn't make it easier. Actually, it makes it harder.
No, for sure.
But that was my way of being like, well, you should really flatten your hands. But I couldn't be like,
no.
Well,
because then you're the weird person.
Exactly. And I'm already weird as it is, you know? So I didn't want to like put more flame on the fire.
Okay, so crawling.
What was the question?
I don't know. I don't remember. Crawling, primitive reflexes,
Yeah.
strength. What
Yeah.
about the connection between crawling and sensory regulation?
Yeah, crawling is a really cool tool because it provides proprioceptive input, which, as you all know, it's calming, it's organizing to the nervous system. We're getting that compression to the joints, the muscles, the tendons. And it's just a really simple way of providing a little bit of that proprioceptive input. It's an active way of doing it. It's not like you're just laying there getting a therapy ball rolled over you, so it lasts longer. Mm-hmm. And it's really just a simple, quick regulation tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyone can do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our videographer, Claire, told us the other day that she took a break at work, or she was at home working, and she took a break and got down and crawled and felt better.
I know.
So there you go.
It just like reset. It's like the reset button. Mm-hmm. You just like crawl a little bit, making sure that your head is looking straight ahead. Take a few deep breaths. You just feel so much better.
I think I did this before your book, but I do like that I have your book at the clinic as a reminder sometimes, because as therapists, we always forget the simple things.
Always.
But I have several of my clients crawl for transitions, specifically at the end of our treatment session when it's time to go get our shoes on and transition to the waiting room, which often is a very difficult transition, especially if the child doesn't want to leave, if they were having fun, and if the waiting room is overstimulating. So we crawl for that transition to help with that regulation piece. Yeah. So that's a quick little tip.
It's a great tool. Yeah.
Quick tip.
Yeah.
So your book is laid out in like a week by week format as a curriculum. So you go through week 1, you assess to see if you're ready to move on.
Yeah.
And then you can go to week 2.
Yeah.
Or you can continue with week 1 activities as needed.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted something that literally anyone could open up the book at any stage of their life and be able to do the activities. Read it. It's simple. It makes sense. It's not tiny little print with I just didn't want it to be overwhelming to look at. So I wanted people to be able to open it up, start from day 1, crawl, crawl, crawl. The activities are really simple at the beginning. And if those are too easy, that's fine. Go right through them and then move on to the next week. And ideally, it should take longer than 5 weeks, but there are 5 weeks worth of activities, because if you do it the right way,
if you do it the right way
and you get stuck on, or your child gets stuck on like the ball handling activities, which is really hard for a lot of kids, even adults, and you're going through it and it's really challenging, it should take you several days to practice and practice and practice. So with it being really a day-by-day mastery type program, you will see more progress that way, rather than just, going through the motions of, today we're crawling, today we're crawling with something on our back. It's like, no, if you are actually crawling and you have something on your back and it keeps falling off, well, you can't move on to the next day. Keep crawling and you'll get more benefits and more benefits and more
as
benefits.
You master each activity.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
Especially as those harder activities get you, because they're hard for me even.
Yeah. They build a lot of skills.
They do. Yeah. One of the harder activities for me specifically is the PDBQ in quad.
I love that.
So it's a visual with all the different letters, and then you're on your hands and your knees, and you have to match the square or the section with your hand of where the curve of the letter is. So there's a lot of visually tracking from in front of you down to the floor. You can add the metronome with it as well. And yeah, there's a lot of creativity that you can do as well with the activities and modify them to what you need.
Who's the book designed for?
Honestly, everyone. Ideally, kids who skipped crawling. Ideally, adults who maybe have ADHD, kids with ADHD. I think that it's a really great program for the geriatric population as well. If you're an OT working in a skilled nursing facility or a nursing home or just for your grandparents, getting down on the floor. I mean, we talk about the shift of primitive reflexes coming back in that geriatric population as well. So it's a helpful program to get them down on the floor, even if they're just getting down on the floor and getting back up.
Yep.
And starting there.
Yeah.
So ideally, I think it'd be cool if everyone was getting on the floor and crawling, if not doing the actual program, just getting on the floor and crawling. But I love that it talks about the ocular motor skills as well. I think that's a big part of crawling that kind of gets overlooked, is making sure that you're working the eye muscles, because when we skip crawling, when we don't crawl long enough, we're not developing those visual skills as we should be. So that's a big part of it, and that's included in the book.
Is there anything you would change about the book? Like Crawling for Brain Development 2.0, what would you change or add?
I don't know if I would change anything yet, but I have the Crawling for Brain Development 2.0 version already planned out.
Too.
Yeah. It's going to be more of like a focus on ADHD and crawling and ADHD and primitive reflexes, because I did a course on that. And so I want to put that into a guide specific for people who have ADHD, kids who have ADHD, and the activities they can be doing every day.
That's great.
To support brain development.
That would be such a good one.
Yeah.
Great.
Just need to get it down.
Yep.
Yeah.
You need to be in the car writing your list.
I know. This was like my evening labor of love. The kids would go to bed and I just write it out.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be a book. That's the funny thing, is it was just supposed to be the guide, the digital guide.
This is better.
Oh, it's so much better. I love having it in front of me. Yeah.
All right. So
This is great.
Yep. If that was it, if you didn't have anything else to add.
No, that's all.
You can get the Crawling for Brain Development curriculum, the physical workbook from Sensational Brain. We will link it in the description below.
Okay. Let me know if you have questions. I hope this was helpful.
I guess I have to close out since I'm interviewing you.
Know. You take the lead on this one.
All right. We will. Oh, if you liked this episode, make sure you click the like button, you subscribe. Hopefully you're watching us on YouTube or Spotify. Leave us a comment, leave us a review. Really the best way to, support us on the podcast is to share this episode with a friend.
If you have the book, or if you've done the program already, or you're going through the program, let me know your thoughts. However you want to contact me. I don't know. Social media, email, leave a comment. I don't know.
We'll put everything in the show notes.
But tell me if you're doing
all
it.
other interviews.
Yeah. Okay, great. This was fun.
Okay, great. We will talk to you next week.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much for listening to All Things Sensory by Harkla.
If you want more information on anything mentioned in the show, head over to harkla.co/podcast to get the show notes.
If you have any follow-up questions, the best place to ask those is in the comments on the show notes, or message us on our Instagram account, which is at harkla_family or at All Things Sensory Podcast. If you just search Harkla, you'll find us there.
Like we mentioned before, our podcast listeners get 10% off their first order at Harkla. Whether it's for one of our digital courses or one of our sensory swings, the discount code SENSORY will get you 10% off. That's SENSORY.
Head to harkla.co/sensory to use that discount code right now.
We are so excited to work together to help create confident kids all over the world. While we make every effort to share correct information, we're still learning.
We will double check all of our facts, but realize that medicine is a constantly changing science and art.
One doctor or therapist may have a different way of doing things from another.
We are simply presenting our views and opinions on how to address common sensory challenges, health-related difficulties, and what we have found to be beneficial that will be as evidence-based as possible.
By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or your child.
Consult your child's pediatrician or therapist for any medical issues that he or she may be having.
This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast.
Thanks so much for listening.